Warning, this podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis, trans, NB, genderqueer, gender fluid, and those still figuring it out. Yes, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Jace reads romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, and you've found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. Well, today is the day. We are doing our first book club episode. Typically, episodes of Jace Reads Romance, the podcast, are taking lessons that we've learned, things that we've read in romance novels, and figuring out how we apply them to our real life. But that means we got to read some books. So we are going to do a bi-monthly, every other month, unless you all ask for more, book club episode where we will pick a book well in advance that has lots of smut or something that is worth taking from the page into our real life and talking about it. And I am so thrilled because I get to pop Sephie's cherry.
Yes.
Okay, not really, but like metaphorically for Katee Robert.
Yes.
We chose Katee Robert, Hunt on Dark Waters, which is the first of the Crimson Sails books. And oh my goodness, do we jump right in? Should I read the back? If you have, so number one, this is going to contain all the spoilers. If you thought maybe I've gotten a few chapters in, or I can't wait, this will inspire me to read it, we're going to spoil the shit out of this book.
Yes.
So maybe pause, go read the book, pull an all-nighter, come back tomorrow. But I am going to read the back of this book for anyone who doesn't care that there are spoilers or is ready to be on this journey with us. So
before you do that, I'm just going to say an apology for my cat. If you hear him in the background.
If you hear any jingle jangles, that is Tiger.
Or
he
meowing.
Is our unofficial mascot.
Yes, he's apparently very vocal today. So
maybe he read Hunt on Dark Waters. That's okay.
Maybe he's.
Maybe
I don't think
he's
so.
Ready.
He rarely gets the brain cell. So I don't think so.
All right. So it starts with this beautiful sentence. A stern captain meets his witchy match in this captivating first fantasy romance novel in the Crimson Sails series. Dun, dun, dun. If you thought this was going to be serious in any way, shape, or form, anyone who's listening,
you haven't listened to this podcast at all.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Also, I have no idea how to pronounce this. The name of the any of the Irish names. I am not Irish. So if you speak Gaelic, please, Gaelic, let me know. All right. Evelyn is a witch with a perfect storm of impulses, terrible taste in bed partners, sticky fingers, and a lust for danger. After she steals from her vampire ex and falls through a portal into another realm, she's fished out of the water by a band of seafarers and their telekinetic captain. She's immediately given a choice: join their ship's crew or die. Bowen has no memory of his life before he became one of the Quinn Anwen. No idea how that's supposed to be said.
I think it's Welsh, not Irish, actually.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
I feel like there aren't enough Y's for it to be Welsh.
I think Evelyn said it's a Welsh myth, if I remember correctly.
You know what? I was just waiting for the makeout. So that's entirely possible that I missed the Welsh. But I always assume that Welsh has 18 more letters than sounds.
You're usually that would usually be correct.
Regardless, if this is Welsh, I still have no idea how to pronounce it.
No clue.
It fixes none of that for me. I have watched Welcome to Wrexham, and I am no closer to speaking Welsh. Rob McElhenney, maybe you can help.
Yes.
He and his band of pirates are bound by vow to patrol through Threshold, the magical sea between realms, keeping the portals to other worlds safe. When he rescues Evelyn, he doesn't expect to be attracted to the unflappably brassy pickpocket. The longer he spends in her presence, the more he begins to question if his heart is the next thing she'll steal. But as tension heats up between Bowen and Evelyn, the danger at sea escalates as well, because Evelyn has no intention of keeping her vows to the Quinn Anwen, pronunciation adjusted. And if she betrays the crew, both she and Bowen will pay the ultimate price.
I feel like that's a really good explanation of the book. Like,
it's a really good explanation of the book, and it also does very little justice to the book because so much else happens.
Yes.
I feel like so much story happens after what is in that snippet.
Absolutely.
So it does. This is a really good preview. Have you ever watched a preview for a movie or a TV show and you're like, well, that was the entire movie in a preview. Yeah. I don't need to see it.
I don't need to see the movie.
You
now.
need to read this book. You do. You need to read this book to get the plot of this.
Absolutely. Because that is just a portion of the story. Like, that blurb is very good at burying the lead. Like, very much so.
All right. Sephie,
yes.
What were your expectations of this book when I voluntold you we were doing it?
Voluntold, that is accurate. No, I honestly, I was going into it completely blind. Like, because I've never read Katee Robert. I hadn't read any of her Greek mythology stories or anything. So I didn't know her writing style or anything. You pretty much sold me on the sexy pirates because pirates. And also, if anyone saw Once Upon a Time, if you didn't have a thing for Killian, for Captain Hook, I'm just like, we can't be friends. So, I mean, I think I even had a thing for Captain Hook with the animated Peter Pan. So that's telling.
You know what? Everyone has their first cartoon crush. Don't judge yours.
That wasn't my first. It was one of the first. My first one was Robin Hood.
I was about to say it's always Robin Hood. It's not always Robin Hood, but it's always Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Always Robin Hood. Let's just admit that to ourselves. But okay, so I'm so glad. I had expectations about this book. If you, like Sephie, have never read any of Katee Roberts' book, that is fine. You have a backlog. You have a history. Mm-hmm. You have some good things being added to your TBR. I was really excited for this book because I've read so many of hers. So I've read the entire Dark Olympus. I've read the entire Wicked Villains. I read Court of the Vampire Queen. And I knew that this book was connected to the world of Court of the Vampire Queen.
Oh.
Court of the Vampire Queen. Oh, you didn't know this? Oh,
I didn't.
Man. I'm about to shake your fucking world.
I'm assuming it has to do with Lizzie.
Lizzie?
Yeah.
Lizzie is the sister of one of the guys in the main grouping of Court of the Vampire Queen, and she actually makes an appearance at the end of that book. So if you've read Court of the Vampire Queen, Lizzie, psycho that she is, shows up at the end of that book and is in this book, plays a major key player in this book. And to further entice you, one of the love interests in the next book that comes out in May, Blood on the Tide. So having known Lizzie, knowing that Katee Robert links her worlds together, and I believe almost all of her worlds are going to be connected in some way, shape, or form, which I will get to. I have a rant prepared.
Yes.
I have a rant prepared. I was very curious. Of course, the phrase sexy pirates.
Yeah, right. It's like
Just
nothing else needed.
That phrase made me pre-order the book. And one of the things I will say about the sexy pirates is this is not historical fiction. This is fantasy paranormal world.
Yeah.
And I like that because historical fiction sometimes has those weird, really uncomfortable gender bullshit things.
Yes.
And I wanted pirates without feeling the misogyny of it all.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you think about our main characters, Bowen and Evelyn?
Okay. So I will admit, at first, I did not like Evelyn very much. I think one of the issues I have with romance, because I'm not a big romance reader. Like, I don't read specifically romance books. Like, that if there's romance in the book I'm reading, awesome. But I don't pick out books that are billed as romance stories, because a lot of times the story is going to be like a meet cute, they fall in love really fast and whatever. But I realized something reading this book and learning about Evelyn and how, like, her grandmother, who is Bunny, which I love that so much, because we'll mention that again later, I'm sure, how Bunny would tell Evelyn, like, women in our family fall really fast and really hard, so be careful. And I'm like, shit, I do that. Maybe that's why I don't like romance, because it's a mirror. I'm like, oh, great. But by the time I got deeper into the book, I really started to like her and her sassiness, because I kind of felt that her sassiness was a little bit contrived at the beginning, but getting to know her more and more as the story went on, it lost that feeling for me.
I'm going to say, I don't think we're supposed to like Evelyn from the beginning. She is self-admittedly not necessarily the greatest of humans. Witches. She's a witch. But she has irredeemable qualities. She is not always on the correct side of the morality scale. Yeah. And so that dislike of her, or that, oh my gosh, girl, what are you doing?
Yes.
This is every single time the answer is clearly A, you are choosing X. How?
Right.
This is obviously incorrect. I find that sometimes to be a very annoying quality, but but for this one, it didn't hit that TSTL, too stupid to live line for me. I was like, you're just in for some bad life choices, as opposed to, I want to bang you upside the head. And I think that really did juxtapose with Bowen, who is Evelyn describes Bowen as a paladin. And if you're not familiar with that phrase, it's basically a self-sacrificing knight whose morality is beyond reproach and courtly love is his only guide. And we do see that.
One definition.
That is one definition of it.
That is one definition, because a paladin in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, is literally, I'm that nerd, deal with it. It's literally just someone who is like gung-ho for their patron or god or whoever, and they follow those rules exactly. Like, there's no deviation.
I don't know. My guess is she's using courtly love, just knowing Katee Robert. Also knowing that she doesn't base a lot of this stuff on D&D, which is fine. She's creating her own world and her own rules.
See, I thought she was, because she has paladin, but then later on in the book, she also has a berserker, which is another Dungeons and Dragons thing.
that's a general mythology thing.
It is, yeah, but it's also like both of them are used in Dungeons and Dragons in pretty much the exact way she uses them, especially the Berserker.
Interesting. I would be highly suspect if this whole thing was D&D, only because so many of her other things are not.
Yeah.
And her vampire lore is, as far as I know, not from D&D. But also, here's also what I'm going to say about that. She does a really great job of telling you how her world works.
Yes.
I knew exactly how the magic and the powers and the people kind of worked their own gifts. And I think that is a real talent in paranormal and fantasy writing, where you can either lean too much in the assumption that your readership understands what you're trying to tell them, or you're basing it off of other people's worlds, but not explaining that explicitly, or you're trying to explain something, or you over explain. I think she did a really good job of showing us, not necessarily telling us, how this world worked.
I would agree with that, because it's very unique. Like, if there is a D&D influence, it's very small, and like it's very clearly her own space and her own world that she played in and created, and she makes that very clear. So I agree with that statement completely.
I need to make you read Court of the Vampire Queen, because it's great. 5 chili peppers, spicy.
Ooh.
I'm gonna just put it out there. Based on Court of the Vampire Queen, which, as I just said, is 5 fucking chili pepper spicy. When I got to a point, once they started having sex in the book, where they hadn't had sex in 10 pages, I was shocked. I was like, wait, I'm so sorry. How is there not a scene now? It's been 10 pages since the last one.
That earns the 5 chili peppers. Yeah.
5 chili peppers. And having read her other books, I definitely expected there to be more spice in this book. This might be the least spicy book of hers that I have read. So for me, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Tell me how you felt about the spice level of this book.
I actually really liked it. I thought it was not having read any of her other books or anything.
Yeah.
I thought it was a decent enough spice level. I do know there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, Jace isn't going to like that, because that was kind of a fade to black moment. Like, I knew as soon as I read it, I was like, oh.
I don't mind fade to black. I'm not offended by fade to black.
I know. But I just read it and I'm like, yep, there it is. And I know you know exactly what moment I'm talking about too.
I'm not gonna lie. It's so funny because to me. So the other books of hers that I have read, I have not read her. For those of you who are big fans of Katee Robert, I have the entire Mafia series that she has. I have my own issues with Mafia. I think I started the first one and I never finished it, but I have the other 2 because I cannot be controlled. And I have not read her Succubus series. But the Wicked Villains, Dark Olympus, and Court of the Vampire Queen, y'all, those are pretty kinky books too. Those are like explicit, especially Dark Olympus and Wicked Villains. Those are explicitly kinky. And Court of the Vampire Queen, there's definitely kink in there, magic, and for people involved. So I was expecting a little bit more kink.
Yeah,
for
I would
me.
see that. Not so much.
I mean, unless you'd count telekinetic powers as kink, which I don't.
No, but they're handy. God damn.
They're great. God damn, they're great. But God damn, it's great.
Like, holy shit, Bowen. I think one of my notes that I highlighted because I read this on my Kindle, as I highlighted it, the only note I put was fuck Bowen, and then I put the spicy hot emoji face. Like,
oh, was it? Which means it's his magic inside me.
Nope, that wasn't it. It was another one. But that one works too.
That one works too. This is the only problem with reading the actual physical book is I have to go through the physical book for my notes.
Yes.
Oh, now I'm just looking at that scene.
I know. I know, right?
Here's a phrase from the scene that we were talking about. This is like, the looming orgasm might actually kill me, but what a way to go.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And
Like,
this is, so let's talk about the sex.
I was just going to say,
talk about
like,
sex.
I feel like the fact that Bowen had telekinetic powers was like a major highlight for me when it came to the sex, because
yes,
fucking like.
All right, we're going to talk a lot about the sex scenes. So, do you care about the plot, y'all? Do you care about this plot? There's instant attraction. There's instant enemies to lovers.
Yep.
Bowen's like, I'm attracted to her and I don't want her to run away because then it means I have to kill her. And Evan's like, I want to run away and break all of my vows because fuck you making me vow to serve you. They're also abandoned on an island as the crew mutinies. I was pleasantly surprised with the plot of this book. Let me also say that there is a lot of plot. We're going to talk a lot about the sex. Yeah. It is not all sex. It doesn't revolve around sex. It's not the story. There's good story. Yeah. There's good action. There aren't a ton of fight scenes in her other books, Court of the Vampire Queen excluded. Y'all know what I'm talking about at the end. But Katee Robert did a wonderful job with the action in this book too. So I agree. Sometimes people can write sex but not action, and then they fade to black on the fight scene, and you just think to yourself, why
have the fight scene? I don't.
Why have the fight scene? Or if you're not going to describe it, why have the scene if you're not going to describe it?
Exactly.
And especially with the dragon and the mermaids, was I know the mermaids. The action was really well described. The powers were described. It was a fun world. I couldn't wait to see what was happening next.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do we want to talk about, I think there were 4 instances of intimacy in this? One accidental.
The first one? Are we talking about the first one? That was accidental?
Are we talking about the first one? We're talking about this. It's the accidental intimacy. That was so motherfucking funny.
That was hilarious and like stupid hot. Like, I feel like it shouldn't have been as hot as it was.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, I'm just going through all of my notes. Katee Robert does a great job of describing in the voice of her characters that make the experience feel unique to that character.
There are so many lines I highlighted where I'm like, I love the way this is phrased. And that's coming from a writer perspective. I love it. I think, because this is with the cat Sith, right? That's the scene we're talking about right after that.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yes, okay. Because I highlighted the one line, but the whole paragraph is like, fuck, Bowen, can you just come talk to me like that?
Oh my gosh, I love.
Because it was this line: I'm no poet, but the first stroke of her tongue against mine makes me want to be.
Oh,
I'm like, damn.
And even the line before that, she tastes like freedom, like the air against my face and the sea beneath the rolling deck of my ship.
Yes.
I'm before that, literally 5 sentences before the end of the second paragraph, at the end of the previous chapter. It's page 94 of my book, and it ends with, and then I kiss Bowen, and my comment to myself was, I mean, it wouldn't be a Katee Robert book if we weren't 100 pages in without some sexy stuff.
I love it.
That was what I said to myself. Also, before we get too deep into Evelyn and Bowen and their sex life, I do want to point out that the reason Lizzie is involved in this book, she is Evelyn's ex. Well, becomes Evelyn's ex at the beginning of this book. So Evelyn, queer. Katee Robert, always throwing in the queer, and I appreciate it. Let's enjoy that.
not only queer, but gender inclusive. I think I will say it that way. I think I highlighted like every use of pronouns that Katee had, because I love it.
So we're in chapter 11. We're not even 100 pages into this. And let's talk about what happens. Would you like to describe what happens in this specific scene, this quickie?
It is literally a quickie. And basically it is just a hot and heavy makeout session. And Evelyn comes from dry humping, essentially.
What I liked about this, because I was a surprise. This particular scene takes place from Bowen's perspective, and I loved it because her orgasm was as much as a surprise to her and Bowen as it was to me. I went. I'm so sorry. What?
I think I had to reread the page again a couple times, and I'm like, wait, what happened?
Did I miss something? Did you just another word? And I laughed so hard.
Yes.
Because it was so unexpected, and it was so, I could feel that both pride from Bowen, like I just dry humped her into an orgasm, and also the intense embarrassment from Evelyn. Not that orgasms are bad or, surprise orgasm.
Yeah.
Just that moment of, oh, I still kind of hate you. I don't want you to know how turned on you made me, which is so fun. And also a great moment of just how differently they handle things. Bowen immediately goes into, let's talk about this, and Evelyn goes into, we are never talking about this ever again. This never happened. What happens in Fight Club? So what happens in the forest stays in the forest. I liked that it is Evelyn that gets off. I also like that the next moment from Bowen isn't, well, great, you got off, now suck my dick, or anything like that. It is nothing about that is quid pro quo from him. He just lets her come all over him. And then they continue fighting.
Pretty much. Because that's when they're like fighting about the cat Sith and
like just their banter.
I know.
Evelyn, don't say my name like that. Like what? Like I'm infuriating and you want to kiss me again. That startles a ragged laugh out of me. You are infuriating and I do want to kiss you again. Bowen, don't be charming. It's upsetting and confusing.
I love how they interact with each other. Like I really, really do. They're very much like two sides of the same coin, They do. They are both incredibly passionate, driven people. It just so happens that their passions and their drive is to, at this moment, very opposite in what they want. And something that is really lovely is they develop a respect for the other person, their skills, their drive, their strength, both outer and inner. They really do develop a relationship that is based on more than I want to bone you. Yes.
It's something that it's not trauma bonding per se, but it is the shared experience where they learn that, well, Bowen has his entire world shattered. His entire view of the world just shattered. And Evelyn, yes, saw the world for what it really was and helped him pull back the curtain and discover what was really going on. Through that process, also changes her goals from escape and self-indulgence and I'm going to focus on me and I'm going to get mine, into realizing that she wants to fight for something bigger. And this cause that she has revealed to Bowen and, sees herself becomes the thing that she wants to fight for.
Exactly. I think it really starts right in this moment because I highlighted from the next chapter, which is Evelyn's point of view. This is with the cat Sith where they have their little fight moment. And a cat creature comes out Yeah.
And Bowen is fighting it badly, and Evelyn protects him.
Yes. Yep.
Too long, didn't read.
Right. Right. But in the process, injures the cat Sith, and Evelyn is kind of upset about that because of her belief system. And she says that to Bowen, essentially, and he's like, it's not murder if it's a monster. And Evelyn says, he's doing that thing again, the one where he opens up his mouth and someone else's words come out. I think that's really the first hint we get at like, okay, there's something else going on and something's going to happen.
Yeah. So the lore of this of this world threshold where they are is very much like Davy Jones. If you watch the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, or you know that lore, is once you step onto the ship, you are trapped to serve it or killed. And this whole realm, as they call it, threshold, is like that. If you accidentally step into threshold, you must join the Crimson Sails, these boats that patrol and fight monsters and do the bidding of the governing body, or they kill you.
Yep.
That's the choice that we are told is presented to anyone who accidentally shows up in this world. It's really extreme. Evelyn immediately goes, that's kind of fucked up. And Bowen goes, that's the way it is. It's the way that I did it. And survival, that's a bit of survivor bias. But in that moment, also, Bowen goes into the forest. He'd never been in the forest on this island. And he goes, what? I know things here that I shouldn't know. Bowen, by the way, can't remember anything. If you don't remember from the blurb, he has no memories before he turned 13. And was
appeared
pulled
in
from
Threshold.
the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe didn't appear in Threshold. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
I highlighted a little moment later. This is when he's helping her back onto the ship. I just thought, I read this and thought of you.
Oh. I wonder if it's the same moment I have highlighted.
Is it, who needs bondage ropes when your partner can hold you down with their mind? I put a note on it. I was like, oh, the possibilities. So my note was against the next line, which is no, not going there. And I wrote, I bet you're going to go there later. Here's the moment when I'm going to tangent, only because this happens right now. And this is my question about realms, because I wonder, are any of the realms supposed to be Earth as we know it, or are they all different? And if so, how? Because they've mentioned that some of the realms have humans, some of the realms don't have humans, some of the realms have different weather and air and this and that. However, Evelyn says the word Pringles.
Yes, she does.
Literally, the lid is off that Pringles can, and now I know exactly how good he tastes. Okay, so she comes from a world where there are Pringles. But there are also vampires. So do lots of realms have Pringles? Or has something happened to our realm as we know it? Or is none of this? And I started to notice, okay, well, what other very Earth as we know it things does she say? But that was the first one. Oh, that wasn't the first one. There was, I highlighted it in blue. She sings a Disney lyric.
What? Why did I miss this?
She sings a Disney lyric, page 51. I take a quick shower, braid my hair back from my face, and dress in my new clothes. I can't help humming. It's a pirate's life for me under my breath. Disney.
Right. Disney.
So there are Pringles and there's Disney in this realm that she is from, but there are also vampires.
And witches and otherworldly paranormal creatures.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious.
So she could very well be from like an Earth adjacent realm. So
but that's my question is what is, I'm almost more confused about the worlds because is the world, or the realm, excuse me, the realm with Dark Olympus and Wicked Villains a different realm? In Court of the Vampire Queen, they mentioned the demon realm, and is anyone who's read the Succubus ones, did the Succubus books take place in the demon realm? And there are these mafia books. But do the mafia books that are just, I think, mafia, there's no paranormal to them, do they take place in our human world? I need answers.
Because maybe by creating this series, this is Katee Roberts' way of linking all of her books together.
That's it. So this was my understanding, because the threshold is what connects all the realms.
All of them.
This is how you can get those interconnected worlds differently than how Wicked Villains and Dark Olympus are connected. Those are totally different. She has a chart that she's posted multiple times on her Instagram. It's
I'm gonna have to go check
very
it out now.
helpful. It's very helpful. Shocking the first time I saw it. Totally surprised, but it was very helpful. Anyway, so this is my tangent of what world are we in? Are any of them supposed to be our Earth? And if not, I can just suspend my disbelief and let it go. But I also need to know I need to know what's going on. Do all the realms have Pringles in Disney?
I mean, she has given herself a very large playground to explore with creating Threshold as like a realm between the realms. So it's very possible that there are multiple realms that have Pringles in Disney. And
then the realms are so lucky, because Disney and Pringles are delicious.
Agreed.
Oh, chapter 17. Miles took it. What? I definitely expected more of a life at sea book, but Miles took the boat. What? No one. Bowen is basically voted off the island, and he and Evelyn are abandoned by the Crimson Hag, which throws a Huckleberry Finn style wrench in my expectations of how this was going to go.
That is a great term.
Thank you.
No, I completely agree. I had an inkling that something was going to happen with the ship, but I didn't expect it to happen so fast.
So fast and off page. I thought it was going to be a dramatic, you're building up to this dramatic mutiny on the ship, and it happens completely separately. But what I liked about it, and I totally support the decision now, because it meant that the story stayed about Bowen and Evelyn. It was not about Bowen and his ship and Bowen and his crew and all of that other stuff. It stuck them together. They're both abandoned. They're on an island. What do? Find it in with one bed. And
as soon as that line happened, I'm like, yep. The wild ride that is chapter 17, because like I feel so bad for Bowen. Like my heart just breaks.
He's so destroyed,
just completely shattered.
He's like, so destroyed.
Shattered. Like my entire life is crumbling around me. Like those are his words, and I'm like, oh, honey, let me just hug you.
You're doing great. It's okay.
But like that's the next moment where it's like, I mean, that's after the dragon and all of that, which starts Bowen really actually questioning stuff that Evelyn is putting in front of him, the laws of the world and how it seems really uneven and off and wrong. But this next moment where he says that my entire life is crumbling around me, it's kind of like, oh, okay, something is really changing. Like, this is a big deal.
This is good. This changes where I thought this book was going.
Absolutely.
And not in a bad way, in a really good way. Evelyn does a great job of seeing Bowen's distress and going, all right, I'm going to care for you in a way that I know how, which is let's get your mind off of it. There's nothing we can do about this. Let's make sure that you and I are
Yes.
taken care of. So they go to the inn. There's only one room and there's only one bed. Okay, so Evelyn says to him, most people don't want to be the villain. And Bowen is really struggling with the fact that he might have been doing not the right thing morally this entire time. That doesn't mean they don't stumble into it by accident. I know you tried to do good, and this hurts right now, but maybe you should use it as an opportunity to look around and see how things truly are. And poor Bowen, he's without any knowledge, without any memories. He is thrust into this world at the age of 13. What a horribly impressionable age for a boy. Puberty, you're in the middle of puberty. You don't have any memory whatsoever, any moral compass besides this crew that fishes you out of the ocean and the people who basically then raise you, telling you what's right and what's wrong. You don't know until you know that what you've been taught maybe isn't the same thing as what's right.
Exactly. And he clings to that so hard throughout as his world is like breaking, he's still trying to be like, but no, Ezra was a good teacher. Why would he teach me these things if they were wrong? He's trying so hard to justify it. And he finally gets to a point where he just can't anymore. I do like where he calls out his crazy thoughts. Like Katee has that one like breaking the fourth wall moment with Bowen and it's later on in this chapter where they kiss and they're like, Evelyn is trying to distract him. And he says, I wrap my arms more tightly around her and it's as if I'm holding the world itself. That's a wild thought, one completely unearned. I'm like, okay, you're falling hard and it's a little crazy, but.
I have swoon next to this little paragraph. Oh my gosh, she's just gotten naked. I'm not a man who always has the right words or even knows the right thing to do most of the time, but I do right now. I cross to her and sink to my knees. And she lets out a nervous laugh. What are you doing? The only thing a man in my position can do when faced with a goddess.
Yep, I highlighted that too. I'm like, fuck.
What is fun is they switch perspectives in the middle of it, and they overlap those perspectives just a little bit. And so you get, the last few minutes from Evelyn's perspective at the beginning of the next chapter. And I like her. Nowhere in those fantasies were him falling to his knees, declaring me a goddess, and then proceeding to worship me with his mouth. And he is worshiping.
It's so perfect. What did I say when I highlighted when I highlighted the only thing a man in my position can do when faced with a goddess worshiper, my note was, well, fuck, if I were Evelyn and I wasn't already in love with Bowen, I would be at that line. Man has moves.
Right? Man has moves. Also, interesting moment. Again, what realm are we in? Bowen, you can't say shit like that. If Aphrodite exists, you're going to bring her wrath down on me. There is an Aphrodite. Yeah. There's a whole Dark Olympus. And what do you mean goddess-wise or just person-wise? Because Aphrodite is an elected position in the Dark Olympus series. Yes, I'm getting ahead of myself. But y'all, Katee Robert, I need to know how does this work? Oh, yeah. And so we're in chapter 18.
Yes.
18 right now. Here's a great little combination, and I'll tell you why I like it so much. I dig my fingers into his long hair and tilt my hips. He follows my urging with no hesitation, shifting up to my clit. Soft vertical strokes. Yes. Use the flat of your tongue, I murmur. He growls against my flesh and obeys. Yes, sir, you better. 1, I love that you told your partner exactly how you like oral sex, because there are lots of things you can do down there. And for some people, certain things feel good. And for some people, certain things feel completely blech. And for some people, certain things feel absolutely terrible, or you need to work up to it, or whatever. So 1, Evelyn, good job just telling your partner what it is that you want. And 2, good job, Bowen, not forgetting your panties in a twist, thinking, how dare she tell me how to eat her own pussy, and listening.
Like, if I hadn't been at work, I would have out and out cheered, because that was perfection. Like, that never happens in books. You never get that. So kudos to Katee Robert, because
this is a good example of what we should be saying to our partners and what we should expect, how we should expect our partners to respond when we tell them what we want. Because if we can't say to someone, I like it when you do X, or I don't like it when you do Y, they're going to just assume based on past experience, past porn, past reading of reading of a romance novel, what is going to be unique to your body. So if you don't like having your clit sucked, and until you tell them otherwise, you're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to enjoy the very mediocre sex. But also, you should expect your partners to listen and do the thing that you've asked them to do. Maybe with some, maybe they need some clarification. Oh, can you be more specific? Where? Tell me how hard, maybe they need a little bit more encouraging. But at no point should someone take what you're telling them and go, nope.
Right.
Expressing what you want is giving your partner consent of how you want things to progress. So she's saying, I want you to do X, Y, and Z to me. Here's what I'm consenting. Here's what I'm excited for. Here are my wants, needs, desires, wishes. There's a lot of, between the two of them in this scene, this kind of, I'm going to go with this whole experience in the bedroom. This whole experience in this bedroom, which is many, many times. A lot of vulnerability that they have with each other, both when it comes to their intimacy and when it comes to themselves. And this is a prime example, I think, of how we do anything is how we do everything. So if we are willing to be vulnerable with someone in our intimacy, we are also opening ourselves up to vulnerability as a human, emotionally. And that can be great for you. In this case, it builds a relationship. It could also mean if it's, a one night stand, you're opening yourself up. It could just mean more pleasure, good, better communication. That partner that you are exploring, that partner is going to give you a better orgasm because you're being vulnerable with them and you're telling them how. And they're also going to be able to be vulnerable with you and say, hey, I really like it when I don't like it when you deep throat. I think oh God. I just read a scene. Someone was giving oral sex to a penis and went to deep throat, and the person went, nope, I don't like the sound of gagging. Nope, I don't want you to deep throat. I don't like that sound. That sound is going to make me gag. And wow, that isn't that. You should see Sephie's face. But that's a moment, where if I were the person going down on that penis, I probably would have said, they want it as deep into my throat as I can get them regardless. And that partner, wow, so vulnerable. I don't want you to do that because it makes me sick. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't enjoy it. Let's get to the really good part of this scene, which is where he fucks her with his magic.
God damn. Like, it makes me want magic in the real world because that could just be so fun.
So fun. Here's something I found interesting is he made his magic feel like fingers.
Right.
But he didn't make it a tentacle or anything like that. He made his magic feel like fingers. Plural, not a singular.
Right, and his fingers.
She assumed it was his fingers and then realized, then I look down my body and realize he's not using his hands at all. His magic might be holding me spread out, but his palms are against my thighs, which means it's his magic inside me. I am someone with a vulva. I can tell when it's a finger versus when it's two fingers versus when it's, a phallus of some sort. So you're making your magic feel like two fingers. I found that fascinating. What an interesting choice. In my brain, I would have used a tentacle. Like, wouldn't a tentacle have been more logical? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's that time I got drunk and yeeted a love potion at a werewolf. If you know, you know.
I have not read that one yet.
Magical smoke tentacles.
Oh my goodness. Also, can we just talk about how they had a very, very clear talk about contraception?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Bowen is the one to bring it up. Number one.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for not focusing on your pleasure alone. And I haven't needed one in quite some time.
Poor Bowen.
Which is really funny because the next line from her is, and I have, if someone said that to me, I'd be very appreciative too. I know it's just horny hormones fucking with my head, but I have to clamp my lips together to prevent myself from confessing my undying love.
Right.
Tomorrow, I can remember all the ways I find him infuriating. Right now, he's too good to be true. Which is great, but also I feel like the standards are so low that all it takes is a man to say, maybe I should think about contraception too, and shouldn't put the entire onus on the person with a vulva in this interaction. Are we going to talk about the squirt at all?
Yes. I mean...
I am not gifted in a segue. But I don't want to keep going because she squirted.
I know.
But like weirdly it's mentioned very briefly and then never again, and there's not a wet spot discussion, which, come on.
I know. How many times have you had a wet spot discussion on this podcast?
I think a partnership that I should do is a waterproof mattress cover and sheets.
Yes.
So if you're a company that makes really good sheets and a really wonderfully protective mattress cover, let's talk. Let's talk about the wet spot and how you can protect mattresses from your extreme sexual activities. But it's literally just like I squirt all over him.
Yeah, that's literally it. But he doesn't stop. Like, he doesn't stop.
No. She also mentions an underworld, not hell or anything like that. Okay, again, where are we? Where are we? What are the deities? I need more information.
A whole lot more info. Oh, and then after that, and he's like, do you want me to stop? And she says, refer back to my previous comment about smiting you if you stop. And then he's like, if you can take more, I have more to give.
Here's a line that I love. Give me a few more orgasms, Evelyn. I won't last. Once I get inside you, I need to feel you come again.
Like, Bowen is so focused on her pleasure.
Yeah. A lot of times sexual encounters are still adhering to the magical penis of, penetration alone. Yeah. Oh, y'all, I am planning a fabulous episode for you in the future. It's going to be great. But this is a really wonderful example of making sure the person with a vulva, if you're having intimacy with a person with a vulva, making sure that the person with a vulva isn't forgotten because your goal of sex is an ejaculation from a penis. Yeah. If your goal is mutual pleasure and intimacy and connection, then both parties need to have that. And I think that there are partners who really do derive a lot of pleasure from satisfying their partner in intimacy, whether they have a vulva or not. Yeah. And the not necessarily accomplishment like gold star, yay, but seeing their partner satisfied and knowing that they did it can be really empowering. There's also people who have oral sex fetishes or oral fetishes. Go read The Princess Trap because Reuben is a goddamn god. Oh my God. That book takes you places that you do not expect.
Really?
Emotionally and sexually. Honestly, here's the funny thing is I stopped highlighting stuff in the sex because I was like, I'm just here with some popcorn.
Same.
I'm just here with some popcorn because I want to know.
Okay, so the sex is very fun, but let's talk about the plot that was buried. Because the
plot that was buried?
Yes. Once they get through the one night in the one room at the end with the one bed, they like their whole plan the rules of the Sin Anwen, or however you say it, you have to join back up with a crew. You have to be
they're
on
rules.
a
or you're a traitor and you're running away.
And they have the right to hunt you down, but you have to join up with a new ship. So they basically a new ship comes the next day.
Audacity.
And they have to join up with it. But Bowen knows the captain, doesn't like the captain.
He's a dick.
So their plan is to have the Audacity take them back to the main island or realm of the Threshold where the governing body.
That's Bowen's plan. Evelyn's still planning to run away. Do we have to mention that like the reason that she's running away is also because she stole a bunch of shit from Lizzie, who's a super powerful vampire, and Lizzie's definitely going to try and find her, capture her, kill her to get the stuff back. And I think we need to mention
because it kind of comes into play.
It does come into play, but is that the important part? Lizzie has her own book. We don't need to talk about her. Lizzie shows up at some point and she gets her own book. So you know what?
Can we just mention that this like character development that Lizzie shows in the course of her brief appearance towards the end of this book?
I will say that it was very surprising for me to see the growth of Lizzie, knowing her from Court of the Vampire Queen, where she is a raging bitch, but to see her have an authentic moment and to know that this kind of sociopathic human is about to get their own book.
Sociopathic vampire.
I've already pre-ordered it, but she really does care about Evelyn and they have a genuine connection. And
unfortunately, she reveals it way too late to keep Evelyn. I have no problem with that.
I like Bowen.
It's the shame on her. She snoozed and she lost.
You snooze, you lose.
Yes.
So they get on this new boat. There's mermaid drama. Oh, no, before the mermaid drama, Bowen is keeping his distance and Evelyn is confused. And I do like, how about instead of assuming you know what's best for me, you just ask me what I want?
Yeah, well, right?
What a novel idea.
Communication. Oh, goodness. What a thought.
Communication, what a thought. Honestly, this is a really good moment where Bowen tries to play the hero, the paladin. I'm going to sacrifice what I want for what I believe to be the good of this moment. And she calls him out on the bullshit. And then they just go into their room to, oh, wait, what is the line? Something about...
Oh, I found it. I did. So it's literally like the last chapter, the last page of the book on my Kindle.
Oh my God, that is literally the last thing I highlighted. I was like, I must have passed it. No, I thought it was earlier. Yeah. Now, if we hurry up and exchange orgasms, we can still get like 6 hours of sleep before our next shift. Evie, for us to only have 6 hours of sleep left, that still leaves 4 hours of fucking. Does it? I ask innocently. Yes, his voice is low and amused. Barely enough time.
Yes.
It is the last line of the book. Oh, that's great. Plot of this book is great. The story is great. They uncover a secret resistance. They both decide they're going to fight for this resistance. They're going to move forward and try to free the realm from the terrible overlords that are holding people hostage. And Bowen kind of has the rose-colored glasses pulled off and sees what's going on for what it really is. Evelyn decides that this is a cause that that is worth fighting for, and she is going to stay with him, stay with Bowen, and fight for this cause. And they are going to go into this journey together. I want them to have another book.
Yeah.
That's it. I want another book of them.
Because you said the next one is Lizzie
and a Selkie. It's Lizzie going. So the stuff that Evelyn stole is still on the Crimson Hag. Lizzie needs to get to the Crimson Hag and find her shit. Well, it's not shit. It's family heirlooms and jewelry, and it's probably very valuable. But apparently she gets a Selkie in there. And it's sapphic. It's Lizzie and another lady, Selkie. And we're not saying the sex is everything. It's not. There's a lot of great plot. And this is a funny thing. Even Court of the Vampire Queen, there's a lot of sex in that book. Spice level 5, chili pepper spot 5. There's still plot in that book. Even in the Wicked Villain series, they take place at a kink club. There's still plot in those books.
Finding the balance is what makes a good book, a good story. And honestly, I think this one did that really well.
I think this was a great example of balancing spice and plot. It wasn't spice for spice's sake. There was a lot of spice. But the character development and we mentioned it, there's banter in the spice. And I think the fact that we see their connection building while they're fucking makes the fucking that much more enjoyable to read.
Exactly.
So what are your biggest lessons, if you were to name some, from this book that you want to take from the book off the page into real life? Right?
Biggest one, I think, especially with how Bowen's life falls apart, is don't take things at face value. Question, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. You know what I mean?
I do. Mine is going to be about sex.
I have one for that one too.
Yeah, mine's
I have that one
too.
But
yeah, that one would be great. That one would be great. That one would be great because we are intending for people to be able to learn and think about and discover things that they're going to take into their sex life from these books. So if that moment when Evelyn says what she wants and Bowen listens, that I think that's going to stay with me. And not because I think that you should always use the flat of your tongue and lick up and down a clit. That's her preference. But because for two reasons. One, it doesn't have to be a big production saying what you want. And two, I will hold partners accountable to what Bowen does, which is, yes, thank you. Thank you for that. If someone, and taking it back to me, if someone was saying, like, she didn't say anything mean. She didn't say, you're doing a terrible job. She said, here's how to pleasure me best. And I think sometimes we can take as a partner also, when I hear those kinds of suggestions from a partner, being Bowen in that moment and going, yes, thank you. Because what your partner is trying to do is build a deeper sense of connection. Usually, ideally, if you've got a good partner, it's connection through orgasm or connection through, listening and all of that stuff. And it is to be that partner who says, okay, my partner instructed me to use my tongue. I think it's more fun when I suck on them, but you know what? I'm going to let that go and I'm going to do what my partner says and hear them and respect what they said and continue moving forward. So that's what I hope you all heard and take with you as well.
I completely agree. And it's the idea of, like, it's similar to improv, where the big number one rule. Yes, and exactly. I think the big word is respect. It hinges on respect. Listen to what your partner is saying and accommodate. Like, sure, you like to do something else, but they don't like that. So don't do it.
Yeah. Seriously. What was your sexual one? Because I might cut the one about the plot out. Thanks,
I'm
Michael.
A writer, okay. It's pretty much the same as yours, but be confident in what you want. Like, it's gonna feel awkward, but you know what you like. Say it.
Yeah. Y'all, but if you have gotten through this entire discussion that Sephie and I have had and you don't want to go read Hunt on Dark Waters, I'm sorry. If you feel like you don't need to read Hunt on Dark Waters, there are so many good moments that we didn't say and so many good sentences and so much good sex and connection and story that we didn't even get to in this moment.
Sure, the connection. Oh
my gosh.
I love the connection.
The connection between the two of them is real, and it goes beyond fucking. It goes It's not trauma bonding. It's realizing that even though they were on completely different paths towards completely different things, the reason and who they are at their core work really well together. And comes back to that word again, respect. They respect each other and decide individually that what they want is the same path and they want to move forward on it together. But this was such a fun moment getting to just word vomit about this book that I loved.
I loved it too.
I hope that you enjoyed it. I give it 5 stars, honestly. 3.5 chili peppers for me.
Mine's a little lower, maybe 2.5. Just 1 star, 2.5 chili peppers.
2.5 chili peppers?
For me.
Really? They fuck a lot. There are a lot of orgasms in this.
But not a lot of kink.
Oh, okay. That is true. But like, that's why Icebreaker is still like a 4 chili pepper for me. Gotcha. There's no kink, but like, there's a lot of sex in that. There's a lot of sex, not kink. True. If you're looking for kink, not this book. Go to her other series. Listeners, did you enjoy this? If so, let me know what book we should do next. If you want to read a book with me and expound for hours upon hours on what you loved about it, let me know. And I would love to have you on the podcast or read the book of your choosing for our next book club in 2 months, sometime in June. Sephie, is there anything else that you want to share? Say, celebrate a quote that we missed.
A quote that we missed. Let me pull up my Kindle notes.
Oh, no.
Towards the end of the book, I think it's Evelyn. She says, I want a cozy blanket, a racy romance novel, and maybe some hot sex in between naps and reading. And I'm just like, yep, that's perfect.
Thank you all for making it to the end of the episode. Sephie, thank you for reading this book with me. Thank you for coming on here and talking about it. I had an incredible time just with everything involved. And we did it. First book club episode. That's it for today, y'all. This has been a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Our producer is Sephie. Michael Achenbach is our patient editor. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. You can find show notes and so much more at jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow along on TikTok and Instagram at Jace Reads Romance. If you'd like to ask a question or share a story for the podcast, call and leave a message at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Or send an email to jace@jacereadsromance.com. Finally, like and subscribe so you can get every episode when they drop. You can also leave us a review to help others find us. And remember, this is Jace holding space for you.